Hi everybody, it's Laura from GreenTree, and I am here to tell you that it is our birthday week. So this week we are celebrating all week long that we are turning 48. So in honor of that, I wanted to go through and tell you a little bit about the history of the co-op. No specific dates though, because as a lot of you know, we're doing a trivia contest right now, and I don't want to give away any of the answers. If you haven't started entering the trivia contest yet, there's 2 new questions every day, all week. You can answer them all in one batch at the end of the week, or you can answer them day by day as they go. The winner actually gets 20% off on Owner Appreciation Day, every Owner Appreciation Day for a year. So it's a pretty good prize if you want to check that out and do a little looking into our history. But I'm going to show you some fun pictures and give you a little bit of an overview of what the co-op has been through in the last 48 years. So if you want to do some math, there's an answer in that one. So I'm just going to run through these pictures and give you a bit of a glimpse into some of the history that we have. And if you're looking at these pictures and you know who any of the people are, some of them are before my time, feel free to let us know. Or if you have any old co-op pictures that you don't see, feel free to pass them on to us, because we love to see new bits of our history. So, first one I'm going to show you. This one is from, I'm trying to get it closer to the camera here. This is a classic from the late 90s when we first put in a soup counter. So you can see the counter here. This is kind of over along the wall where the supplements are now, and in front of our kitchen is where this used to be. We're looking out into the store in this image. Sorry about the glare, somebody opened the door. Then we have the front of the store. Now this is somewhere in the early 90s after we expanded to fill the whole store. You can kind of see our big old sign up on a pole here, and the front of the store had this cute little canopy. It was set back a bit further, and we didn't have a greenhouse yet. So this is from, again, the early 90s after we took over the entire building, and we're no longer just in the back half behind an apartment. This one is probably the oldest picture of the co-op that I have. I know the writing is reversed here for you, so I'm sorry about that, but this is the side entrance when we were in the back half of the building. You would come in where the greenhouse doors are now. The greenhouse would have been like right here along the front of this building where you see these bushes, because that was put in much later. So this is somewhere between late 70s and early 80s when you still had to come in along the side.
Yeah.
And we've got some interior shots for you. So this is what some of our bulk bins used to look like. It was basically just a big slanted shelf with a bunch of 5-gallon buckets full of various co-op goodies. I can't really tell you the labels on here, but we had a lot of grains at the time, some other things like granolas and nut butters as well. So this is kind of our classic setup that you can see there with just 5-gallon buckets with the lids on them. This is also really old school, close to the beginning. You can see here we've got a bunch of different little jars. Oops, sorry about the glare again, it got sunny today. There's a little scale off to one side here, and everything is basically in jars with handwritten labels on them, just on a big old wood table. Oh, Sandy remembers. There we go. We got some people watching who know what I'm talking about. And this was before we really started to get a lot of shelving in. You can see a couple more of the 5-gallon buckets kind of hanging out in the background there. So this one's definitely a classic. This used to be our bookkeeping system, and this was probably the case into the late 80s, early 90s. So we got one of these beautiful little calculators with that little roll-off tape and a binder. So we were keeping it organized, just not quite as high-tech as it is now. Now this one I'm going to try and pass in front of the camera. These are, as best as I know, these pictures are probably from the late 90s, early 2000s. You're probably going to recognize a few people in these photos. I know that I do. I'm just going to kind of slide this up over the camera so you can check everybody out here. Oh, and here's an oldie but a goodie of our general manager, Sarah. Some of you probably remember Angie. We got a Mary Potter there, actually, and this is Becca up here for those of you who knew her. So those are some classics, old staff photos and volunteers. And then I've got a little, I guess you would call it a photo album here. And I'm going to show you just a few select pages because there are a lot of pictures in this guy, which is why we're always collecting pictures. If you come across any, send them our way. So these are some more from the early 90s when we first got into the whole building. And you can see, you know, everything was kind of trimmed and short then because we had just redone the front. So there's tiny, short little bushes. And then this guy goes a bit later into maybe the late 90s or even early 2000s. And you can see the building is painted green and all the flowers are getting a lot taller. Oh, we got a comment here. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Alma or Alma used to sell my aloe plants there in the 90s. Yeah, we do still love plants, and we will be having our plant swap again in early June like we do every year. So if you got any plants that you have gotten unwieldy and have some baby aloes that you want to give away, feel free to come down to that. So I'm going to flip ahead a little bit here. And we've got some interior shots from around the same time. This is actually probably more like the probably very late 80s into the mid 90s. We got some black and white photos of the store. You can see we're still using a lot of just tables with things stacked on them in here. We've got a lot of sort of coolers just stacked up wherever they will fit. So that's kind of classic. And this is when the checkout was still over on the opposite side of the front door from where it is now. Let's see. And then these are from around 2000 or so when we were building the greenhouse. So here's a little shot of the little walkway in the greenhouse getting laid next to the building before we went and built that up. And this is the fence to next door, so you can kind of see that in process. Then we go ahead a little further here. Whoop. There's a lot of pages in this, so I appreciate you guys bearing with me. I'm going to show you one more. This is probably around when I started, like early to mid 2000s. We got some classic photos of the store and the staff. This is when we had put the roof in, which that was somewhere around the early 2000s also. But the front of the store, we still didn't have all the picnic tables and stuff that we have now. And then we got a couple interior shots for you. This is around the mid 2000s. You can see we still had the giant herbs and spices jar, so it took up a lot more room. And then we've got some of the shots of like the old cooler. I don't know if anybody remembers this freezer. Made a terrible sound. So you can see that's kind of a bit of an overview up to the mid 2000s or so. And then in the I can't tell you what year, but sometime after that is when we did the remodel, moved the wall around and put in the deli. So that was a little bit later, but again, I can't tell you the year because that's actually one of the trivia questions. But that was a while ago. And then more recently, if you've been in, you'll know that we have moved around, gotten some additional coolers, expanded the space for fresh products. And if you are interested in all of these changes that we've made and some of the history that you just saw here, you can check that out on our website. We do have some of our old newsletters available on there as well. And then keep your eyes peeled because we're doing another little change up in the near future, so you can see some other changes to the interior of the store. So there you go. That's kind of a little bit of a rundown of some of the pictures and some of the history that we have. Again, if you have any old pictures, send them to us. We'd love to get them. Jump in on the birthday trivia contest and tell us how much you know about the history of the co-op. So there you go. I hope you guys are having an absolutely fabulous Tuesday, whether you've been around for a week or whether you've been around for almost 50 years. Thanks, guys. Bye.